Hey, it worked.
Yes, it did. Thank gosh. How are you?
Good.
I-
How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice to meet you.
Yes, same here. You too.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So we just wanted to start. Oh, sorry, my cat is making an appearance.
Always a good cameo.
Oh, my goodness. Um, so wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself to our community and kind of just jump into your story.
Uh, sure, thank you. My name is Meirav. I'm just a girl, and I experienced years of infertility, of unexplained infertility, the fun kind.
Mhm.
And I'm also professionally, I'm also an actor and producer and writer. And I was, years in creating and performing in productions, mainly theater. And in parallel to that, in my private life, I was experiencing infertility, but I wasn't talking about it
Mhm.
with anyone, of course, because I couldn't share that because no one else around me was sharing. So I just thought
Yeah.
no one else around me was going through it. And so I didn't want to be, the only odd one out, and I didn't want to be pitied, and whatever all the reasons I came up
Mhm.
with, I didn't talk about it for years. Um, and then at one point a few years ago, I don't know, my husband and I experienced yet another miscarriage, but this one was kind of like a bigger one. And for some reason after that one, I was like, hey, why have I not been talking about this with a friend or two? Or
Yeah.
like, why? I don't know. It just kind of all came together. And I said, okay, I'll do that. I'll, finally talk with a friend or two. Or wait a minute, but if I talk with one, well, they should all know. How am I supposed to do that? Am I gonna take out one friend for coffee, and tell them about everything that I've experienced, and then what? Then I have to do that with every single other
Right.
person. Like, how's that gonna work? So I just figured I would tell my closest friends like all at once, but I didn't know how to do that because I didn't want to get into the because it's heavy and loaded,
Yeah.
and so I just didn't know how to do it. And then I said, wait a minute, comedy, I could do that. Theater, I could do that. So I kind of, I invited them over and I said, hey, come over for like cookies and hormones or whatever I called it. And they're awesome, and they indulged me and came, and I just told them everything that I had been experiencing all those years that they didn't really know. But I didn't tell them like through like a story. Like I told it through silly songs, and I used odd props and funny characters, and like my way of telling it.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. I really didn't think I was starting anything. I thought I was, kind of leveling the field and being like, okay, now
Right.
we're on the same page. Let's go on. I literally went to the door afterwards, opened it, and expected them to file out, and we never had to talk about it again. But they didn't leave, and they started talking, and I said, okay, what's happening here? It kind of brought up a lot of stuff that they had experienced, and I said, whoa,
Oh,
whoa, whoa. We're a group of women that supposedly, know each other well, but we didn't know all these details.
yeah.
And now we're talking about how many other groups of women are there like this. And then I just thought this is, interesting. And my friends were like, you have to make this one of your shows. And that's how it became a show. And that's what I've been doing pretty much since for the last few years. I've been kind of trying to get this show out there because I see that it's more than cathartic for me. It's
Of
also been
course.
for other people. So
Of course. And did finding the humor in it, was it healing for you?
yeah, unexpectedly. I really just thought it was just a kind of a vehicle for me to speak because I
Mhm.
couldn't talk about it otherwise. But it was much more than that. It was, as funny as I, the jokes are, and the characters and whatever. It's funny. I'm making people laugh, whatever. But it's hard to do
Right.
that over and over again and kind of relive everything over and over again.
Right.
It still is a lot, but yeah, it has been healing.
Yeah, it probably feels very fresh every time you do
Oh yeah,
it.
Yeah. And especially when I'm performing this in front of people and I see their reactions and I see obviously it's fresh for them and I see that they're like, you get that little reaction of, oh my God, that's me, or oh, I saw that, or oh, I didn't know that. All those things that's great that I see that other people have that.
What kinds of conversations have been had because of the show?
Um, Many more unexpected than I thought. It was much more than like, thank you, or it was funny, or wow, or, wow for telling your story, whatever. It was more like, the ones that I remember are, parents that came to me and said, we had to tell you this is what our daughter is going through, but we didn't really know that this is what she's going through, things like that. I've had, IVF personnel like in my audience, like nurses and doctors, and they were like, huh, like they didn't
Seeing it from the patient's perspective.
Yeah, it gave them a whole different perspective, even though they see, hundreds and thousands, and it's fascinating. And I've had also people that have never even known about this, that they were like, I've heard IVF, but I never really knew what that was, or I heard infertility, but I never really knew what that meant, like in a day-to-day. And I've had, people in my audience that are, much younger, that I've had like a first date couple.
Oh, wow.
At my show. And they were also like, wow, like they, it's things that people don't even think about. And, especially dealing with, women's health and self-advocacy, things like that. Like, oh, I didn't really know that I should ask for this, or I should, and that's been great.
So it's super educational on many fronts.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to someone else's journey, I'm wondering what kinds of advice you would give to them to try to find humor in the dark spaces that they're in. Because I feel like when you're really in it, it's so hard to get out of it. It's so hard to get out of kind of that pit that you're in. How do you dig yourself out?
I don't really know if I could give solid advice. For me, my husband and I were going through this, and again, we were like on this secret, covert, sad secret agent mission, not telling anyone. So I think, and we do like revert to humor often. So we were like, okay, it's a humor thing and it's a reflex, and the jokes would come up. I don't know if I could tell someone how to do it, and I wouldn't say, always look for it, make everything funny, because not everything can be funny, and you can't find the funny. But when you do, like, kind of, if you're able to step back a little bit, like even if you're, at the clinic or whatever, and you just step back and you look at it on that kind of zoomed out perspective, you'll see so many ridiculous situations and weird things that are juxtaposed, and that's funny. And then you can laugh at that, and then it gives you kind of proportion, and be like, oh, okay, you can laugh at it. Yeah.
Like Wanda is just funny.
Wanda is one of the many. I mean, it's ingenious. It's just it's a book full of jokes there.
Seriously. How else can I'm trying to figure out how to word it. The way that infertility kind of traumatizes you and really kind of changes you. How do you stay true to yourself and stay kind of just remembering who you were before? Because it's really easy, I think, to get lost in it and make it kind of your whole identity. I'm curious what your thoughts are on how to maintain yourself.
There's something to say, I call it the infertility bubble, because you do get into this very all-consuming obsessive situation. Inevitably, because you kind of have to be, because you have to track and think and call back and like all these things.
It's a job.
Yeah, it's a whole job, and definitely PTSD involved.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I would say, how to not lose yourself, because you're there, and you can always, again, if you can apply your youth in a way to
Mm-hmm.
this. So like if you're, I don't know, if you're in any way artistic, then, you know, draw it out, act it out,
Yeah.
laugh it out, whatever. If you, you know, how, whatever your thing is, if you can like find your way in that. So like I, you know, I have someone that I know that super like numbers person,
Hmm.
and that was her anchor in infertility, because she was like, numbers. Yep, I could do numbers, and all there's a lot of
There is a
numbers
lot
with that.
of numbers. It's all a
And
numbers
she
game.
just focused on that, and it was kind of like, okay, I that's my, you know, like mastery. I master that, so this is how I can kind of have control of something or of myself or of whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
beyond that, I don't know if I would say, you know, go back to how it was, because you won't go back
Right.
to how it was, because this is one of those things in life that is, you know, it makes you kind of a new you.
Yeah.
And not, you know, and you could utilize that instead of having it kind of, I guess, destroy you. See how it can, how you can work with it and learn from it. Like a lot of things in life, it's like, what can we learn from it to kind of,
Right.
you know, move forward in a way.
And finally, I wanted to ask if you had any words of warrior wisdom that you could share with our community to help them through their journey.
I think that's the big word there is community, teamwork. That's all I could say. I think, you know, my husband and I were the team, and I think
Right.
if we didn't have that together in that whole thing, it would have gone sideways really fast, because there is so much, you're being pulled in so many directions, and it's so weighted and so raw that you need that support in any way. So if you can get it from your partner, that's great,
Mm-hmm.
because it's most likely most accessible. But if you need or can get it from a group, or like what you're doing, what
Yeah.
Yesh Tikva is doing, I think that is, you know, so much. You could get so much from that. Yeah, that's most powerful.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing out Yesh Tikva and what we offer.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join us. I really, really enjoyed speaking
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, same here. Thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye.